The moment Elon Musk opened his mouth, the entire studio went silent. He didn't just challenge a journalist. He exposed what he calls the biggest scam in American history, right on live television. No one expected it. Not the media, not the audience, and definitely not the journalist who thought she had him cornered. What he revealed next could change everything you thought you knew about your money, the media, and the government. Let's break it down. It was billed as one of the most anticipated interviews of the year, a rare, in-depth conversation with Elon Musk, the billionaire tech mogul who has become one of the most influential and controversial figures in the world. Cameras were rolling, millions were watching, the network had hyped it for days, promising an unfiltered conversation about the future of AI, social media responsibility, and the risks of unfettered speech. But no one, not even the host, was prepared for what would unfold. From the moment Elon Musk stepped onto the stage, dressed casually in a black tee and jeans, there was a sense of tension in the air. The interviewer, a seasoned liberal journalist known for her sharp questioning and strong opinions, welcomed Musk with a smile that seemed more performative than genuine. Her goal was clear: challenge Musk on his leadership of X, formerly Twitter, his controversial stance on free speech, and the growing concerns over misinformation spreading on his platform. She opened with a carefully crafted question, one that sounded rehearsed. Mr. Musk, since taking over X, there's been an alarming rise in hate speech and misinformation. Critics say you've turned the platform into a haven for conspiracy theories and dangerous narratives. How do you respond to that? A moment passed. Musk leaned forward, rested his elbows on the table, and looked her dead in the eyes. His tone was calm, deliberate, almost surgical. Why, he asked, are you so focused on what people say online when the biggest lies, the most destructive lies, often come directly from the government itself? The silence was deafening. The host blinked, clearly caught off guard. She started to respond, but Musk wasn't finished. Let's talk about the real scam, he said, the one that's been running for decades, right under everyone's noses. The control room went into a frenzy. Producers whispered frantically in earpieces, but Musk pressed on, a system built on illusion. You want to talk about misinformation? He continued. Let's talk about how inflation is actually a hidden tax on the people. Let's talk about how the Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air, devalues the dollar, and yet no one in media ever calls that out as manipulation. He explained it in plain language. No jargon, no economists speak. Just cold, hard reality. He pointed out how the US government has added trillions to the national debt, spending money that doesn't exist, funneling it through bloated contracts, bureaucratic programs, and endless wars. Meanwhile, he said, the average American is working 2 jobs just to keep up with the cost of living. Their rent goes up, their groceries go up, their gas prices go up, and no one tells them why. No one dares to explain that it's the money itself that's broken. The host tried to redirect the conversation, nervously glancing at her notes. But we're here to talk about responsibility, she said. And many say you have a responsibility to control false information on your platform. Exactly, Musk interrupted. And where's their responsibility? Where's the media's accountability for pushing weapons of mass destruction narratives that weren't true, for cheering on trillion-dollar bailouts while Main Street collapsed, for ignoring the corruption behind lobbying, pharma, and the military-industrial complex? He wasn't raising his voice. He didn't need to. The facts were louder than any shout could be. The journalist falls silent. As the conversation continued, the journalist, who had walked in confidently, now seemed visibly shaken. Her body language changed. Her voice wavered. She attempted one final counter. Well, Elon, you're not an economist. What makes you the expert here? Musk paused. Then, with quiet intensity, he said, "I don't need to be an economist to smell a scam. I've built businesses from the ground up. I've seen what happens when innovation is crushed by red tape and how small businesses are destroyed while giant corporations get tax breaks. This isn't about economics. It's about common sense. It's about telling the truth." And just like that, the air was sucked out of the room. The host had no comeback. No witty retort, no statistics to bury his point. She simply went silent. A moment later, the network cut to commercial. But the damage, or, depending on your view, the awakening, was already done. Elon Musk breaks it all down, the hidden scam beneath the surface. After dropping his first verbal bomb about government lies, Elon Musk didn't stop. He leaned in deeper. Way deeper, into the system he claims is quietly robbing Americans of their wealth, freedom, and future. And no, this wasn't some off-the-wall conspiracy theory. This was a full-blown economic takedown, with facts, figures, and fury, delivered live on national television. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve. Musk pointed right at the root of the problem. The Federal Reserve, he said, is the engine behind the biggest scam in American history. He explained how the Fed, a private central bank that controls US monetary policy, has the power to create money out of nothing. Literally. No gold backing, no real asset behind it. Just numbers typed into a system. When they print more money, Musk continued, it doesn't mean we suddenly have more value in the economy. It means the value of every dollar already out there goes down. And guess who pays for that? You do. Every time you go to the grocery store or fill up your gas tank, you're paying the price for decisions you never agreed to. It was a gut punch to viewers who had long felt something was off but didn't know exactly how to explain it. Inflation, the invisible thief. Musk then zeroed in on inflation. A word many people hear in the news but don't fully understand. Inflation isn't just rising prices, he said. It's a hidden tax, a silent tax, the most deceptive tax in history. He explained it like this. Imagine you've saved $10,000 over the past 5 years. If inflation hits 20% over that time, your money didn't grow. It lost value. What once could buy a used car now barely covers a few months of rent. You worked hard to save that money, Musk said. But through inflation, the government and its banking system just took a cut of it without ever sending you a tax bill. Then he dropped a stat that left the room stunned. 40% of all US dollars in existence were printed in just the last few years. Let that sink in. That's not just mismanagement, that's a system on fire. The rich get richer, the poor get left behind. Then Musk made it personal. He showed charts on screen revealing how massive corporations and billionaires benefit the most from inflation. Why? Because they own assets, real estate, stocks, businesses that go up in price while the average person holds cash, which goes down in value. Inflation is a wealth transfer machine, he explained. It takes from the poor and the middle class and hands it straight to the top. He pointed to government bailouts, where trillions went to Wall Street while mom and pop shops went bankrupt. He mentioned how defense contractors rake in billions from endless wars while veterans struggle to access healthcare. It's not capitalism, he said, it's cronyism. Wasteful spending and the military-industrial machine. Next, Musk called out what he labeled government waste on steroids. He brought up military budgets ballooning into the hundreds of billions, with little oversight and almost zero accountability. He cited examples of weapons programs that cost taxpayers billions, only to be cancelled or delayed. Meanwhile, he said, you can't even get clean drinking water in Flint, Michigan. The contrast hit hard. On one hand, the US government could write blank checks for tanks and fighter jets. On the other, millions of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck, buried in debt, or unable to afford basic health care. They tell us there's no money for education or healthcare, Musk said, but there's always money for war. That's not a budget issue. That's a priorities issue. Musk brought receipts. What made this moment different from any typical political rant was that Musk came prepared. He didn't just speak from emotion. He brought receipts. Graphs showing how inflation exploded after the COVID-era stimulus. Side-by-side comparisons of real wages versus corporate profits. Government spending breakdowns that revealed how little actually went to the people. He even highlighted how both major political parties are guilty. No one was spared. This isn't a left or right issue, he said. This is about power versus the people. And for decades, power has been winning. A televised masterclass in economic truth. As Musk wrapped up his fiery explanation, you could feel the atmosphere shift. Viewers weren't just watching a tech billionaire vent. They were witnessing a truth bomb that had been waiting to explode. It was a masterclass in economic red pilling, and it happened live, in front of millions. Whether you agree with Musk or not, one thing is undeniable. He said what almost no one else in power dares to say. And in that moment, he didn't just expose a scam, he exposed the system. Elon Musk exposes the media. You've become the mouthpiece of power. As if exposing the Federal Reserve and the mechanics of inflation weren't enough, Elon Musk turned his attention to another pillar of American society, one he claimed was no longer serving the people, but protecting the powerful, the media. The room tensed as Musk shifted focus. His tone never changed, still calm, direct, and composed, but the intensity behind his words only grew stronger. "You want to talk about misinformation?" he asked, locking eyes with the journalist. "Let's talk about how the media, your industry, has become part of the scam." The media's new role, from watchdog to megaphone. Musk didn't accuse. He exposed. He spoke about a time when journalism was about holding the powerful accountable. When reporters dug deep, uncovered corruption, and asked uncomfortable questions. That time, he said, is gone. The people who are supposed to challenge authority, he said, now carry water for it. The watchdog has become the lapdog. He pointed to headlines, repeated narratives, manufactured outrage cycles. He accused major news networks of abandoning truth in favor of clicks, ratings, and political loyalty. And what's the cost? While you flood people's screens with celebrity drama and political sideshows, the real stories, the stories that matter, are buried, ignored, or twisted beyond recognition. What they don't want you to see. Musk didn't hold back. He rattled off a list of stories the mainstream media rarely touches. The spiraling national debt, and who's profiting from it. The real impact of Federal Reserve policies on working-class families. Military spending, and the lack of transparency behind trillion-dollar defense contracts. How lobbyists and mega-donors write legislation behind closed doors. "Why doesn't anyone talk about this?" he asked. "Why aren't there primetime specials breaking down exactly where your tax dollars go?" The journalist tried to interject. Something about editorial independence and budget constraints. But Musk gently raised his hand to pause her. "You have entire teams fact-checking memes," he said, "but you don't investigate the billions flowing to defense contractors or the revolving door between government and big pharma. Why? Distraction as a tool of control." Then he drove home the most damning point of all. You keep people distracted. You feed them fear, division, outrage. Because if the people ever focused on what's really happening, on how the system is rigged against them, they demand change, and those in power can't allow that. He gave examples. How one day the media is telling people to panic over a celebrity's tweet, and the next they're polarizing society over culture war stories, while quietly skipping over a new $800 billion defense budget passed in the middle of the night. "You create noise so people can't hear the truth," Musk said. "And the result? An uninformed public. Distracted, divided, disempowered." The journalist cracks. At this point, the tension on set was undeniable. The journalist, previously confident and composed, was visibly rattled. She stuttered, flipped through her notes, tried to pivot to a question about AI ethics, but Musk wasn't done. He leaned back slightly, giving her room to respond, then calmly asked, "When's the last time your network did an honest, detailed segment on where taxpayer money actually goes?" She hesitated, eyes darting. No prepared statement could save her here. Well, we've covered government budgets before," Musk interrupted, not with anger, but with something worse. Truth. Budgets? Not deep audits, not follow-the-money breakdowns, not holding anyone accountable, just headlines and surface-level analysis. And then he went quiet. The journalist said nothing. The silence was louder than any argument, the moment that broke the internet. That brief exchange, those 10 seconds of silence, became the clip that flooded social media. It was replayed millions of times, turned into memes, stitched into TikToks, and quoted across every platform. Commenters on both sides of the political spectrum couldn't deny it. Musk had called out the media in a way that few ever dared to, and done it on their own turf. The questions he raised weren't just political, they were personal, they were urgent, and they were real. Who's telling you the truth? Who's controlling what you see? And why are the biggest issues in your life being ignored? A wake-up call for a nation asleep. In that moment, Musk wasn't just challenging one journalist or one network. He was challenging an entire system, one that claims to inform, but often misleads. One that claims to protect democracy, but keeps the public in the dark. And for millions watching, that message hit harder than any algorithm or headline ever could. The moment the interview aired, the world didn't just watch, it exploded. Within hours, clips of Elon Musk's truth bomb flooded every corner of the internet. YouTube channels were reposting the segment. TikTok creators stitched it with captions like, "Musk just ended the game." On X, formerly Twitter, the video went viral in real time, with millions of views racking up every minute. Something had shifted. This wasn't your typical celebrity moment or another political soundbite. Musk had touched a nerve buried deep beneath decades of public frustration, and it was now erupting on a global scale. All sides, all voices, one shockwave. What was perhaps most surprising, the reaction didn't follow typical political lines. Left, right, center. People from all backgrounds were chiming in. Some praised Musk as a truth-teller who finally said what needed to be said. Others accused him of oversimplifying complex economic systems. Still, even his harshest critics admitted he sparked a conversation that couldn't be ignored. Comment sections lit up with debates. Was Musk right about inflation being a hidden tax? Is the media really protecting power instead of challenging it? Has the Federal Reserve gone unchecked for too long? People were no longer arguing about celebrities or partisan politics. They were arguing about money, power, and the truth. Hashtags and headlines, a digital firestorm. The hashtags told the story. Musk exposed the scam. Just follow the money. Rasts question everything. These weren't fringe hashtags trending in obscure corners of the web. They were global, hitting the front page of X, Reddit, and even Instagram. Memes, quote cards, and explainer videos flooded timelines. Popular influencers and independent creators dissected the interview line by line. TikTok users made short, punchy breakdowns of how the Federal Reserve works, using Musk's own words as narration. Suddenly, people who had never cared about monetary policy were learning what inflation really meant and how it was affecting their daily lives. Experts join the fray. As the public lit the fire, economists, political analysts, and independent journalists added fuel. Respected finance experts released threads and reaction videos supporting Musk's claims. Some broke down the history of the Federal Reserve and how it operates. Others highlighted the link between money printing, rising costs, and why the middle class is getting squeezed harder than ever before. A few mainstream outlets tried to dismiss Musk's comments, but even then the damage was done. The public was no longer blindly accepting the official narrative. They were asking questions, they were thinking critically, they were engaged, and perhaps most importantly, they were listening to each other. Mainstream media's uneasy response. The major news networks couldn't ignore it. Musk's interview was everywhere, and their silence only made them look complicit. Some tried to spin the clip, suggesting Musk was fear-mongering or fueling conspiracy theories. But others, albeit cautiously, acknowledged that he may have a point. One high-profile anchor admitted during a panel, "We may not agree with his delivery, but some of the issues he raised deserve serious scrutiny." Another veteran journalist wrote a column titled, "Have we been avoiding the real story?" It was subtle, but it was a crack in the wall. Ordinary people speak out meanwhile. Ordinary people, the ones feeling inflation the hardest, shared their stories. Parents talked about how grocery bills had doubled in just 2 years. Young workers posted about stagnant wages and how they'll never afford a home. Seniors described how their retirement savings are being eaten away while corporate profits hit record highs. They weren't quoting politicians, they were quoting Musk. "It's not just about money, it's about control. They distract us while they quietly rob us." Those words echoed across timelines, videos, and comment threads. From viral clip to national awakening. This wasn't just a moment. It was a movement. For years, the topics Musk raised were confined to academic circles, buried beneath jargon, and pushed aside as too complicated for the average person. Now, they were front and center in the national conversation. What is the Federal Reserve, really? Who benefits from government spending? Why does the media focus on outrage instead of accountability? Millions were asking these questions for the first time, and once those questions were out, there was no putting them back in the box. A conversation that can't be silenced. Whether you agree with Musk or not, whether you love him or hate him, one fact became undeniable after that interview. He changed the conversation. He made economics emotional. He made media manipulation personal. And he ignited a firestorm of curiosity, anger, and awakening that spread far beyond politics or tech. The system had been challenged, publicly, powerfully, and unapologetically. And now people were paying attention. What comes next? Time to wake up. So where does that explosive moment with Elon Musk leave us? For days, the internet couldn't stop talking about it. News outlets scrambled to respond. Commentators from across the political spectrum weighed in. But beyond the noise, beyond the hot takes and hashtags, a deeper truth started to sink in. Musk didn't just expose a scam, he exposed the system, and in doing so, he held up a mirror to all of us. The system isn't broken, it's designed this way. When Musk laid bare how the Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air, how inflation acts like a hidden tax, and how the media serves as a distraction machine, he wasn't revealing some secret club or hidden agenda. He was pointing at a system hiding in plain sight, one most people live under but few truly understand. And that's the genius of how it works. You're not meant to notice how your savings are losing value. You're not supposed to question trillion-dollar budgets passed overnight. You're not encouraged to ask who benefits when interest rates rise or when Wall Street gets bailed out. Instead, you're handed a steady diet of outrage, gossip, and political theater. Because if you're busy fighting each other, you won't think to challenge the people pulling the strings. A wake-up call. The media didn't want to hear. What made Musk's message so dangerous to the establishment wasn't just what he said, but how millions of everyday people actually listened. In just one interview, he managed to do what few politicians, journalists, or economists have done in decades. He made complex systems understandable. He made economic injustice feel personal, and he ripped away the illusion of choice in a system designed to keep you distracted. That's why the silence from the media was so deafening. After all, when was the last time you saw a panel on CNN or MSNBC doing a deep dive on the mechanics of the Federal Reserve? Or asking why inflation hits the working class harder than anyone else? Or questioning who really writes the bills in Washington? You don't. And maybe now we know why. It's not about Musk. It's about us now. Let's be clear. Elon Musk isn't perfect. He's a billionaire. He's controversial. He's made his share of mistakes. But in that moment, none of that mattered, because he used his platform to say the thing no one else would say. To ask the question no one on live television dared ask. Why are we focused on fake problems while real ones go unchecked? He didn't speak as a politician with a donor list. He didn't speak as a media figure trying to keep ratings up. He spoke, love him or hate him, as someone with nothing to lose by telling the truth. And that hit a nerve. Not because Elon Musk is some kind of hero, but because we've been starving for honesty, for clarity, for a challenge to the status quo. The real question, will we listen? And now we're left with a choice. Do we scroll past it and go back to our feeds, caught in the loop of memes, celebrity scandals, and political bickering? Or do we start asking the questions that matter? Why are we allowing unelected bankers to control our economy? Why does the media avoid talking about real power structures? Why are we okay with inflation eroding our savings while billion-dollar companies post record profits? And most importantly, what are we going to do about it? Because if we don't ask these questions now, then when? If we don't demand transparency now, then how long until it's too late? This is bigger than one interview. This was never about just one TV segment or one billionaire's opinion. This was about truth piercing through the noise. It was a moment of clarity in a world designed to confuse you. And whether you believe everything Musk said or not, the ripple effect is real. People are waking up. People are talking. And for the first time in a long time, people are questioning the systems we've been told are too complicated or too sacred to challenge. But here's the thing about waking up. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. What now? The next step isn't to idolize Musk. It's not to point fingers at the other side of the political aisle. It's not even to rage against the system blindly. The next step is to get informed, to dig deeper, to ask questions they don't want you asking, to think critically about money, about media, about power, because if enough people start asking the right questions, the answers will have no place left to hide. And that's when real change begins. So, what do you think? Was Elon Musk exposing a system that's been hiding in plain sight? Or was it just another headline in the never-ending news cycle? Whatever your view, one thing is clear. The conversation has started, and it's not going away. Because once people wake up to how the game is rigged, they start asking questions that shake the foundations. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Musk right? Are we being misled? What's the biggest lie you think we've been sold? If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because we're just getting started. Hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. This isn't just a story, it's a movement. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, stay awake.